Book One One's allowed the books that are around for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a lifestyle coach, event speaker, podcast host, and of course, a published author, none other than Miss Toni Will.
Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Tony, on Book One Wonder. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
So yeah, I am from Kalamazoo, Michigan. My day job, I'm a general manager and governor of the Kalamazoo Wings, which is a men's AA professional hockey team. I've been doing that for the past 11 years, and that's kind of spurred on my work around female empowerment, women that work in male-dominated industries, and on to all the kind of cool things, projects I've been working on. And yeah, I'm excited. In addition to all of that, I stopped drinking alcohol 5 years ago and I live alcohol free. And I'm a big time vocal supporter of those lifestyle choices and destigmatizing um, not doing alcohol or drugs.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Miss Tony. Thank you. And tell us, what is a empower creator as a creator? What is all about?
So yeah, I love to learn, and this is something that's come later in my life. Like when I was in high school and college, I was like a C student. But as I've gotten older and got more wisdom, more life experience, raised my own children, I really embraced the power of learning. And so I wanted to create a space in my hometown where people could come here to Kalamazoo and learn about how to invest in themselves, no matter what they do for a living. And maybe they're a stay-at-home mom, maybe they're retired, maybe they want to start their own business, but they're just not sure how, and they don't have those relationships. Women don't. So I created this conference, and this is year two. And so we learn for a full day together, and then we go to a Kalamazoo Wings hockey game afterwards. So it's learning and experience all blended into a big 36-hour event.
Yes, and thank you, Miss Tony, for empowering women all over the world. We salute your advocacy. So, breaking barriers as a woman leading in men's professional hockey. Tell us, we often hear about the first, but I'm interested the why. What is the specific moment or series of events that convince you this not just a career you wanted, but a path you needed for Ford's immense professional hockey?
Yeah, I fell into this work completely on accident. I've been working for 25 years, and the first half of my career I actually spent in banking, retail banking. I worked my way up from a personal banker all the way up to a regional level manager, always in leadership roles, sales, training type of um, career path. Hockey came completely on accident. I actually applied for a completely different job, and the HR director saw some talent in me that would fit better in pro hockey, and they happened to own a pro hockey team here in Kalamazoo, and I was offered the position. And so I didn't know when I walked through the doors of Wings Event Center back in 2015 that my gender was going to play a role in anything that was in front of me at that point. And so once I started to do the work and was in these rooms, I looked around and I was one of the only women in the room. And I said, I want to do some work here because I know there's some talented women next to me, behind me that want to do the same. So let's start working on some of those things. And that's what I did.
Yes, and congratulations for starting a news advocacy to help women all over the world in an environment where you are often the only woman in the room. Have consciously cultivated, protected your unique leadership voice?
Yeah. So one of the key things is to use my voice, and but I find my windows or my pockets because it pays to be a good listener, but also to build relationships. And so I've worked really hard over the decade plus to build relationships that are authentic with the men I work with. And just because we don't always see eye to eye on the business side or the governorship of the league, we still respect one another. And so that allows me to build confidence and courage and speak up in those rooms because I do have a seat at the table. And for instance, I'm the only woman ever in the history of the league, which is 40 plus years old, to be on the executive committee for the board of governors. And so it's important that I use that voice. And I also make it a priority to learn a lot. So I read my age every year. And I think that's really important. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And so I'm not always teaching, but I'm also doing.
The word resilience is often used in this context. What does the word mean in practice, and what is the more private, less celebrated quality like vulnerability, curiosity, and patience that has been equally vital to your success?
Yeah, those are words I hear a lot, and I would definitely describe myself as resilient. You know, this when I hear the word resilient, I hear someone that has been through really challenging experiences in life and has come out the other side. I also, when I hear resilience, I think of the word failure, and a lot of times people think the word failure or fail and experiencing a failure is very scary. But I embrace failure, and I actually kind of think failure is BS because the only way we're failing is if we're not trying. And so just continuing to persevere and really try to find in any situation there's a positive or a silver lining. And I have found that through being vulnerable and transparent and authentic and talking about certain topics like being a woman in a male dominated industry or choosing to quit drinking alcohol, that people can relate to me more and I shrink that stigma and build my self confidence and courage all along the way.
Who were your North Stars, Miss Tony, whether inside, outside of sports, and what did you specifically learn from them about wielding influence without traditionally authority?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I've ever been asked who my North Star was. I think when I think of how I was brought up, my dad is a very big part of that. He was an entrepreneur. He's retired now, but he was someone that understood me, which I felt like I've always been a unique individual. Kind of go to the I'm unique and quirky, so I moved to the beat of my own drum, as they say. So my dad's been a big part of that North Star, and then my children. They're all adults now, and then my husband, beyond my father, have been very big in supporting my efforts. And so part of this is noting as I lift women up that I didn't have, not what I did have, but what I didn't have. I didn't have any female mentors or bosses. I've been really surrounded by men. So I wanted to create that space for women too. So I've had multiple reasons. So maybe I could be someone's North Star as they're working towards their goals.
Miss Tony, walk us through the tangible, practical stuff of your first days in a key role. How did you approach earning initial credibility with the players or staff who may never have reported to a woman before?
Yeah. So one of the things I do when I was moving into the organization, and I didn't know this at the time because I didn't know this my gender was even going to be an issue, but
Okay.
I built relationships, which I'm very strong at. It's one of my strengths. And then I really started to think about, okay, I'm not sure how to run a hockey team. I've never done this before, but I know people who have. So from this was built my six leadership pillars, going through this experience all these years ago. So I built these six leadership pillars. Number one, I went to the experts. I found other people that have done this while we're competitors on the ice. We're not competitors off the ice. And so I found those individuals and I started to learn and then I innovated and we made it fit for Kalamazoo. And actually, my TEDx, which has been up on the screen here, that whole talk was about my leadership pillars and how to make change in whatever space you're in, whether it's professional or personal.
In a results driven world, you have to deliver, but how did you navigate the double bind of proving exceptional competence while also building a relational trust necessary for a long term leadership?
I'm navigating double binds all the time. I don't know that I have the answer yet. Um, I would say this other than talking about it. I think
Mm.
educating people and just being really honest to say what some of these double binds are for women. Often I travel a lot for work. Now my kids are grown, but they weren't grown when I first started this job. And so that's a double bind for me. Like, if, as a mom, we want to stay home, be with our kids, and it's culturally expected to do that. But my career had other requirements. And so why am I in this double bind? Because if I was a man and my husband were in this role, it wouldn't be that way. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
one classic example of a double bind. So I just talk about them and I'm honest. And sometimes we have answers and sometimes we don't. But what we do have is someone that says, "Oh, I get that. I feel the same way too. I'm not alone. I'm not crazy." That type of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
So let's talk about the language of the locker room. The culture of men's professional sports has been its own coded language, humor, and rituals. How have you navigated participating in or sometimes consciously reshaping that cultural fabric to be inclusive while maintaining its unique cohesion?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because I'm a female, as we pointed out, and there's a men's locker room involved. And so, one of the things, like from a practical standpoint, I have a great relationship with our head coach. And so, what's interesting about hockey is 97% white male. You have a female GM and you have a head coach who's black in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's very interesting. So, Joel Martin is the head coach, and we have a really great relationship. And so, it starts with us as the leaders and that's where it starts with the inclusivity. He and I are partners in this, and so if Tony's coming down to the locker room, the team knows that, and they're always very respectful, and and including me, and vice versa. I'm like, come on upstairs to the front office. We're all one big team, and
Mm-hmm.
the front office supports what happens down on the ice. And then I will go back to that practical statement I made. If I'm coming downstairs to the locker room, I call ahead.
A job. So let's talk about the allies and advocates. Can you share a story of pivotal male ally, a player, a coach, or executive who used his influence to actively create a space for your voice and leadership?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, I attend conferences often beyond creating my own. One is called the National Sports Forum. It was very male dominated when I started going 10 plus years ago, and the speakers were male, white male. The panelists were male, mainly white males. I'm like, where are the ladies at? And so, one of my allies is a fellow team president within our league, and I was talking to him one day at league meetings, and I told him how I was applying over and over again to become a speaker and highlighting women in sports, but I kept getting shut down. And I didn't know he was on the steering committee for this conference. And he asked me, he said, Tony, did you know I was on the steering committee? I go, no, I was just talking to you as my friend and peer. And he said, I go, don't do anything about it. I just wanted you to know because I was giving up. And come to find out, all of a sudden that I got asked to be a speaker, and the virtual, it was at the time because it was during the pandemic. It was a hit. They wanted me to come do it in person, and then they wanted me to do it on the main stage. And now I host a breakout session or a women's in sports reception every year. I do a live podcast for my podcast there, and all in servant leadership to lift women up. And so John Davis, president of the Wheeling Nailers, is a huge ally, and he was a big part of how I've been able to break through this glass ceiling in hockey. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. So let's talk about the strategic insight. Many talk about bringing different perspective. Can you give a concrete example of a hacked decision, a strategy, a personal move, a training approach where your distinct perspective led to be a different in a better outcome?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. There's the sales and then there's the marketing from. So first off, in minor league professional hockey, so the Kalamazoo Wings, there's three levels of hockey in the US and Canada. There's the NHL, which is a National Hockey League, there's the AHL, which is American Hockey League, and then there's the ECHL, which is the league the Kalamazoo Wings play in. We are developing players to move up and down. The difference in minor league hockey is that about 20% of the fan base are season ticket holders. They're hockey purists. The other
Mm-hmm.
80% are seeking entertainment. So the sports is cool, but they're really looking for different reasons to come to the game. So for instance, tomorrow's game on a Sunday afternoon is what we call hockey for the healers, but it's a Bluey game. And so it's for families and these kids, if they're into the cartoon Bluey, they get to meet the characters. And so we have a almost a packed house tomorrow afternoon for a hockey game that we paired from a pop culture standpoint. And so we really get creative around what initiatives we're bringing in. You'll see on this here on the screen that you have Rainbow Ice. We're the only team ever in professional hockey to dye the ice rainbow. That's what we call a cause game. And so these have been initiatives that myself or my team have come together to create to bring in new people to see hockey and embrace it and hopefully one day become a hockey purist.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Tony, as a podcast host, speaker, author, and creator of Empower Her, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, my short-term goals, I have a book coming out this year. So, and that was a long-term goal as of 2 years ago, but it's coming up this year, August 11th of 2026. My book, Rebellious Success, is coming out, and I'm really excited about that. It's creative nonfiction, and it's a kind of a mix of stories from my life and then the how of behavior change and some business leadership mixed in there as well. So that's a short-term goal. A long term goal, I would say, is gosh, I don't even, I have so many goals, but I, a fun long term goal is I'd like to get a hot tub because it's really cold here in Michigan and it would be nice to sit in.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Tony. I'm looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, if people want to be like me, boy, I would say that, you know what? I would really be like, just be you, because that's the one thing that I've learned to embrace. Like, there's only one Tony Will, and
Hmm.
there's only one Daniel Lucas, and we're unique and special in our own ways. So, what I really have embraced is my authenticity. And so, kind of checking in like, am I living my authentic self? Is someone going to get the same Tony at the grocery store as on this podcast? At the doctor's office, and they are, but that's taken a lot of work and a lot of courage to look at my life and say, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? So it's a lot of thought work, Daniel, is basically what I'm boiling down to.
Thank you for that, Miss Tony. Thank you for that advice. So, can you please recommend a book or books that influenced your journey?
So one of my favorite books I've read multiple times over is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. It is an excellent book. I read it at least once a year, maybe twice a year. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to um, scale your business, this is a great book.
Definitely. Thank you for that recommended book, Miss Tony. So let's talk about the personal cost and reward. This journey requires immense sacrifice. What is the something you had to give up, and what is the joy or fulfillment you've gained that you never could have anticipated?
Yeah, I shared this at the beginning, right? I gave up alcohol, and I think in sports, boy, it's like the opposite. Is a very alcohol saturated industry, and by my math, I gave myself about 800 hours back a year. And when you think about alcohol, and I do consider myself someone that did not have a healthy relationship with alcohol, and it was a lot of work to stop drinking. But I've been sober, alcohol free for over 5 years now. But by giving myself all that time back, I was able to work on other projects like my podcast and my book and my conference and mentoring and all the things that I do. So that was the one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Congratulations, Miss Tony. The media often focuses on the barrier itself. What's more interesting, nuanced story about women in hockey leadership that you wish was to told more often?
So I would say what's more interesting is being a woman in hockey. People are very interested in that. And in particular, they're interested in the fact that I didn't have a hockey background when I took this job 11 years ago. My background is a passion for business and my community. And I've been able to get results because of that in a different perspective. So it's definitely what people are interested in learning about.
Mm, yes, definitely. Defining the win, Miss Tony. If you were ultimately successful, what will be a coaching staff room, the GM's office, and the draft table look like in 10 years? Paint a picture of the new normal.
Yeah, I would say this, and we're on this way now. Of course, technology is a big part of that. So, being able to communicate with each other on various different platforms, a collaborative work environment. So, where we're in very close proximity to one another, so we can, because our business is very seasonal. And so, there are times where we're together and we need to ideate and we need to plan and we need to be out in the community. So, there's a lot going on. So, it looks like collaborative with the use of technology, and then authentic and vulnerable storytelling, like really being out there on social media, in traditional media, and telling the story of the Kalamazoo Wings or of our head coach or of me or the stories of the players, because those resonate with the community.
Miss Sonny, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season. Abstract poetry in third season, and book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 in third season, and mob food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, science 101, sex 101 fourth season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible verses 101 are in first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Tony, to tie into your advocacy, what is the most uncommonly sensible piece of advice would you give to any underrepresented person stepping into a whole in a role where they are a pioneer like you?
Yeah, so the piece of advice I give is this: mission over money. And this is a personality trait, and by that I mean I am not money is not a motivator for me. I believe that if I'm passionate about the mission, the money will follow. And so I would encourage people to take a look at that, and it will all come together. Every time I've made a bold step that I've been mission driven on, the money comes secondary, which is important.
Definitely. Miss Tony Will. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Yeah, so tonywill.com is my website, and everything can be found on there with my podcast, my book coming out, the coaching services I offer. It's all there.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Tony Well, because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Miss Tony, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel.
Monica, people, see you